Bang! Neevesknives. I'm Jerad, and today we are sharpening the Tanto on the large badger. Let's get into it. Now we're going to get right into this, but just so you know, I do have an entire playlist of sharpening content, teaching knife sharpening, so if you miss anything here, I probably have a topic on the subject in my playlist. But first off, we have to find our angle. Now, depending on the angle you want, there are different ways to do this. I'm going to show you how to freehand just quickly find the angle you might want to sharpen that's already on the knife itself. But if you do want a lower angle, that will change. However, if you do want to find a particular angle, I will link these down in the description. They're little angle guides that you can set right on your stone, and they say the angle of which you want. They have all different sizes, and then you can just follow that angle. You just have to set the knife on the stone at that angle and then hold it as you go across the stone. So I will link these down in the description if you'd like to get some. The cones you've seen in the box are for rods, so you can also get an angle guide for a rod. Also, remember, the lower the angle you want to put on your edge, the longer it's going to take. Because we don't want this video to be too long, we're just going to put the same angle or close to the same angle that's already on the knife itself. Now, one easy way to do it is you lay the knife on the stone and look this direction under the edge, and you want to concentrate near the heel of the blade. Lay the knife on the stone and start lifting the spine up, because what you're going to do is you're going to see a shadow underneath the edge. So concentrate on the shadow and lift up the spine of the blade until that shadow goes away. When the shadow goes away from the heel of the blade underneath the edge, that is a good angle to start with. Now, I do teach a trick in some of my videos where once you have your angle, if you want to be able to repeat it over and over, find your angle and then find a spot on the blade to put your finger. Touch your finger to the stone, and then the spine, pick a spot on the spine of the blade and make sure you're holding the angle that you want. So after we've done the shadow trick and we find our angle, then we're going to take our finger and put it to the spine of the edge. We're going to push it on there so that it leaves a little indentation. Now, you can trace that little mark. And now you can put it on this finger as well and trace that. Now, anytime you need a reference, you would also mark the spine of the blade wherever that is. This isn't a marker, but let's say it's right there. Now, every time I need to make sure I'm holding my angle, I can just put it right there to my finger, and bam, right there. That's my angle. So I don't have to drag my finger across the stone, but you can if you want. But you can at least have a reference of where to start. Just make sure you line it up at the exact same spot every time. And then when you get to the front portion, you can do the same thing. Just hold it, and now lift your elbow up to hit the front portion of the edge. And if you want to leave your finger on the stone and drag it, you can. Just make sure you're very gentle. And if you have problems with the stone hurting your fingers, you can use Captain tape. Captain tape will protect your fingers and the stone will not tear it off. Now remember, you want your scratch pattern to start at the top of the edge bevel and work its way down. The more passes you make, you want to work its way down to the edge. You don't want to start here and then start getting scratch patterns down here and then start getting scratch patterns down here. You want it to go from the top of the edge bevel all the way across and work its way slowly down as you sharpen all the way down from the top of the edge bevel to the apex. So eventually your scratch pattern will hit the apex, and that is when you can start expecting a burr. But you don't want your angle to jump back and forth. You want to hold your angle and make sure the scratch pattern goes from the top of the edge bevel and slowly work its way down to the apex. So as you're sharpening, you're going to see your scratch pattern start from the top of the edge bevel. At least that's where you want it to start. And the longer you work on it, the lower it will get down to the apex. Once it gets to the apex, then you should be getting a burr. And after you get a burr, that is when you are ready to switch to the other side. Now with a tanto, we want to do this two different sections. So we have this section and this section. It's two different sides. So we want to start off with this section first. So we don't want to do this section and this section at one time. We want to do them separately. So we're going to start off by, after we got our angle, hold your angle, lock your wrist, and then use your elbows and your arms to drag it across the stone. You don't want to fluctuate your wrist because then you might change angle or convex your edge. Now, if you're good at holding your angle, you can go back and forth, but in many cases, a lot of times people will convex when they do that because they don't realize that they are fluctuating their angle a little bit. Now you want to finish this first part of the edge first before moving to the next part. So get your scratch pattern to cover your entire edge bevel from heel to tip, from the top of the edge bevel all the way down to the apex. And then once that scratch pattern is completely covered the entire edge and you have a burr from heel to tip, now you will transition to this part of the edge. Now with this part of the edge, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to hold the same angle, but now you're going to start at the point. Because a tanto has to be done in sections. So this was our angle. Now all we're going to do is just raise up from right there, starting at the point. And we're going to start at that point and drag it across and lift our elbow. Not our wrist, because if you lift your wrist, again, you're going to fluctuate your angle. Hold your angle solid, drag it straight back across the stone, just using your elbow to lift to get to the tip. Then once you feel a burr from the entire edge, you can switch to the other side and repeat the same process. Now, in order to hit parts of the edge closer to the secondary tip, you might have to come off of the stone a little bit with the rest of the edge, but make sure you hold your angle. As you're coming off of the stone in this direction, don't teeter-totter. Make sure you hold that angle the whole time, all the way until the stone is hitting that part of the edge. And once your edge bevel is completely covered with the new scratch pattern, all the way to the apex, from the heel to the stopping point or the secondary tip, and you have a burr the whole way, now you're ready to do the front part of the edge. If you don't know what a burr is the metal wire that's folding over from you removing steel on the opposite side. So the side you're sharpening, you will feel it on the opposite side that you're sharpening. And you just take your finger and slide it right up over the edge like that, and you should feel a metal wire folding over the apex. Now, after you're done with this front portion, now you're going to want to make sure your secondary tip is lined up really good. So you might have to go back to this portion and straighten it up a little bit around this area. And you're just going to want to hold it the same angle you were. You're not going to do anything different. Just hold the exact same angle you started with and continue sharpening right there. That's going to ensure that your grip pattern ends up right here where the secondary or the two tips basically can meet and marry together in one specific point. So this edge is going to match up with this edge, and you're going to land it and make sure they marry together at one specific point. So you do a couple passes, check it, see if it's looking good. And work on it a little bit more if necessary. And now you should have a burr on this entire edge, and we're going to want to do a deburring process. Now you can do a reverse pass on the stone very lightly at the same angle, kind of like stropping. Or you can even do a forward pass. Just make sure it's the same angle and it's very lightly, because you're only trying to get the stone to snag the burr and fold it back over to the other side. You want very, very little pressure here. We're not trying to change or do anything to our grip pattern. We're just trying to tear our burr off. Now, if you wanted to move to another stone, you wouldn't do this process yet. You would wait until you're at your finishing stone. But since we are going to use this as my finishing stone, I am going to deburr right now. And normally I would take this to 600 grit, but for reasons of making the video not so long, I am going to finish right here. You can also use a ceramic rod for this purpose. And once you've fatigued the burr and it's ready to fall off, or it has mostly fallen off, you can go to your strop. And on the strop, we're going to want to do the same process, just in reverse. Do each edge individually. So I'm going to start here at the tip. Do the top portion of the knife on both sides. Then go down here to the longest part of the edge, my flat edge. Go back and forth. Until the burr is nice and clean. So we want to make sure that where we married our two edges together goes through nice and clean. So start from one part of the edge, go through, and as it goes over the transition right here, we want to make sure it goes over nice and smooth. So I have a little tiny bit of a burr right there we're going to get off. And I can feel it. It's on this side. Make sure you don't overstrop. I have a very toothy edge here, so I'm less likely to overstrop, but usually overstropping is a cause of raising your angle too high. So make sure you don't raise your angle too high. Make sure your angle is the same angle you sharpened at. If not, maybe drop it down just a tad bit just to be safe. There we go. Because by raising your angle, that will roll your entire apex that you just worked on. Perfect transition. Very beautiful. My fault. Very nice. And just so you guys know, these do come in many different blade shapes, different sizes, and all different kinds. They have G10 versions, or sorry, they sell G10 scales now. This is a G10 scale, so you can get these now. And I will try to link everything I can down in the description for you, including lots of sharpening supplies that I do recommend. Now, we did create a little smile back here at the heel, which, you know, that was very hard to avoid because they don't leave you a good choil and plunge grind. They do have versions with full finger choils, but as far as the plunge grind, it's impossible to miss when your plunge grind hits your edge. But there you guys go. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.